I think it's the same thing that makes most sense practically all of the time. And that is to consistently buy an S&P 500 low-cost index fund. Keep buying it through thick and thin, and especially through thin, because the temptation gets, when you see bad headlines in newspapers, maybe to say, well, maybe I should skip a year or something. Just keep buying it. American business is going to do fine over time. So you know the investment universe is going to do very well. The Dow Jones Industrial Average went from 66 to 11,497 in 1 century. And then since that century has ended, it's more or less doubled again. American business is going to do well. The trick is not to pick the right company. It's to be, because most people aren't equipped to do that, and plenty of times I make mistakes on that. The trick is to essentially buy all the big companies through the S&P 500, and to do it consistently, and to do it in a very, very low-cost way, because costs really matter in investments. If returns are going to be 7 or 8%, and you are paying 1% for fees, that makes an enormous difference in how much money you have on retirement.
At the annual meeting for Berkshire Hathaway this year, you introduced a special guest to the audience of 40,000 shareholders who were watching. It was Jack Bogle. Why did you want to recognize Jack Bogle?
I think Jack Bogle has done more for American investors than any other person connected with Wall Street or the investment process, because he, with a number of other people, he came up with the idea of the index fund. He wasn't the sole thinker behind it, but he was the guy that implemented it and crusaded for it. But now there's trillions of dollars in low-cost index funds. Those people are going to have better lives. They're going to have better retirements. Their kids are going to inherit more money because of Jack Bogle and his efforts. Of all the things that have happened since 1942, we've had 14 presidents, 7 Republicans, 7 Democrats. We've had world wars. We had 9/11. We had the Cuban Missile Crisis. We have all kinds of things. The best single thing you could have done on March 11th, 1942, when I bought my first stock, was just buy an index fund and never look at a headline, never think about stocks anymore. Just like you would do if you bought a farm. You just buy the farm and let the tenant farmer run it for you. And I pointed out that if you'd put $10,000 in an index fund that reinvested dividends, and I paused for a moment to let the audience try and guess how much it'd amount to, and it would come to $51 million now. And the only thing you had to really believe in then is that America would win the war, and that America would progress as it has ever since 1776. And that American business, if America moved forward, American business would move forward. You didn't have to worry about what stock to buy. You didn't have to worry what day to get in and out. You didn't know the Federal Reserve would exist, whatever it might be. And America works.
I recommend the S&P 500 index fund, and have for a long, long time to people. And I've never recommended Berkshire to anybody. Berkshire is, I like it, but I'm not. I do not think the average person can pick stocks. We happen to have a large group of people that didn't pick stocks, but they picked Charlie and me to manage money for them 50 or 60 years ago, and so we have a very unusual group of shareholders, I think, who look at Berkshire as a lifetime savings vehicle, and one they don't have to think about, and one that they'll look, if they don't look at it again for 10 or 20 years, that will have taken care of the money reasonably well. But that, I wouldn't argue that the S&P 500 over time. I like Berkshire, but I think that a person who doesn't know anything about stocks at all and doesn't have any special feelings about Berkshire, I think they ought to buy the S&P 500 index.